I'd like to call the Common Council meeting for June 4th to order. Has been appropriately noticed.
Yes, Your Honor, it has.
Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Alderman Shaw.
Here.
Alderman Ellis.
Here.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Here.
Alderman Zwart. Alderman Stray.
Here.
Alderman Kavieski. Alderman Rogers.
Here.
Alderman Rozak.
Here.
Okay, first item is a public hearing. The purpose of the public hearing is to hear public comment on a conditional use permit to construct a 155-foot tall monopole tower at 662 East Wisconsin Avenue per allowable uses listed in section 17.106 of the Economowoc zoning code. Towers of any height require a CUP in the mixed-use commercial zoning district. Per the request of the applicant, the public hearing will be adjourned now until June 18th of 2019. Do that for the second one, too?
I'll explain both of them. So basically, what has occurred here was with regard to the proposed tower on Wisconsin Avenue, based on inquiry of both myself and staff, we were concerned about whether or not the applicant had truly vetted the potential co-location opportunities, which is required under 660404, which is a operative statute. And I think that the applicant has now done some further investigation as to whether or not they may be able to locate on another tower that is in the vicinity. And they asked us to not, to put this over to the next meeting, because otherwise we would sort of be spinning our wheels if they had not done all of their due diligence. And as it relates to the tower up on K, we did not really feel that it would be appropriate to go through this process twice. And they requested that that one be taken off as well. I know that there was an inquiry as to whether or not, and I see our reporter's not here, probably doing something else right now, whether or not that would be a problem with regard to the shot clock running, because there are specific time restraints associated with the time that you make an application to the time that you have to make a decision. The applicant has informed us that they will waive any application of those time restraints. It was their request. The request is in writing, and so we have nothing to be concerned about there. We will take it up at the next regular Common Council meeting with regard to either one or two public hearings, if they are able to determine that the co-location is the appropriate manner to go with the tower, or the proposed tower on Wisconsin Avenue. They will withdraw their application on that. If they don't, we will have a public hearing and we'll make a decision as to whether or not their decision is correct. So we do not want to have any public comment with regard to these issues. And as I said the last time, the reason is that this body must make a decision on the basis of evidence that is put in place in front of them at a public hearing. So it would be inappropriate to take information outside of that public hearing, and it could potentially create a taint on the process, which I would have to defend in the circuit court if there is an appeal. So I don't want to do that. So please respect that.
Okay. Moving on, we'll go on to the next item is the approval of the meeting minutes. We need approval of the council meeting minutes from May 7th, 2019.
So moved. Second.
You have a second? Any questions, comments? Seeing none, call the roll, please.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye. Okay, next is comments and suggestions from citizens. If anybody has any comment on any item besides what we just talked about, please come up to the podium and fill out one of the blue cards. I have one card so far. Pete Holmes.
Good evening. My name is Pete Holmes. I reside at 237 Shore Circle in Oconomowoc. I'm going to start my presentation by mentioning the May 7th meeting in which Alderman Kevin Ellis kind of took a stand for the Thackeray Trail people, says, I'm going to be there for you. That's part of my job, is to be involved with you and to look out for your best interests. I don't have the video to go by, so I'm kind of paraphrasing. So if I miss something, please let me know. First thing I'm going to read you is an email that I sent to Mark Fry, David Stoicer, and emailed it as well to Kevin Ellis and Charlie Shaw, the representatives for District 4, my alderman. Mr. Fry, Mr. Stoicer, I reach out to you today for information regarding planning and implementing bike lanes in a city such as Oconomowoc. Over the past 11 years, the use of Oconomowoc Parkway to Silver Lake Intermediate School has endured confusion as to what type of road it is designed to be. Motorists who frequent Oconomowoc Parkway from Silver Lake to Valley Road have often used the parkway as a multi-lane roadway due to the width of the road. However, recent events have added to that confusion. Beginning March 14th, the Oconomowoc Area School District Board began rerouting 14 buses from Valley Road to Oconomowoc Parkway to Silver Lake Intermediate School, which is also against what they recommended of their own verbiage, that was not safe to do, but they went and did it anyways. The buses have been traveling using the rightmost portion of the parkway immediately adjacent to the cars and trucks of parents and guardians taking their kids to school. When I inquired as to what kind of a roadway this is, Mr. Stoicer checked with the state of Wisconsin, and it was referred to as a 2-lane road, 1 lane in each direction, separated by a boulevard. Not my research, your research. Now, this seems very dangerous and bicyclists at an unnecessary risk for expanding the lanes. My email goes on to say, I would therefore like for the City of Oconomowoc Public Works Department to investigate implementing a designed bike lane adjacent to the outermost curb sidewalk area from Silver Lake Street to Valley Road, or at very least from the front entrance of Silver Lake Intermediate School, which resides on Oconomowoc Parkway, to both sides of the road. This should define the roadway where students and residents that use their bicycles along the Oconomowoc Parkway and give some level of safety and protection where one does not currently exist. To assist in this matter, I provided the city with a website, www.pedbikeinfo.org, which has estimated cost per mile to implement a bicycle lane, for instance, and with the money that the school purported to save by rerouting the buses, $5,505.28 per year. With the rerouting of the buses, they could contribute this project as it directly affects those individuals who frequent Silver Lake Intermediate. Let's always remember during this presentation, there's a school over there. Additionally, if you don't happen to be over there for the weekends, there are many bicycle groups and clubs that come off of Valley Road through Oconomowoc Parkway and then hook up with the Lake Country Trail. As they join up with the Lake Country Trail that runs through the center of the parkway, further enhancing their safe travels through the area, while the Oconomowoc Parkway would most likely be the first roadway in Oconomowoc to implement a dedicated bike lane, what better time and place to do so? This will certainly help define the parkway lane to motorists once and for all. I will also send this information to District 4 aldermen for their review. Perhaps this could be a topic of discussion at a common council meeting. I look forward to the thought and input of our Public Works Department as well as our representative aldermen. I signed it, sincerely, Pete Holmes, and my address. This is the response I got from Alderman Shaw and Alderman Ellis. I've received 0 response from my aldermen in my district. I don't know if they're ostriches with their head in the sand. I don't know if the city told them not to speak on this issue. And I provided both the city and each alderman complete dockets of information when this project first started, when the school started to reroute buses, until we're here today. Gave them right to you at your offices, at your desk right here. Now, here's the initial response I finally got Thursday, May 30th, from Mr. Fry's office, 64 days after my initial email. 64. Peter, the chief and I viewed the traffic on Oconomowoc Parkway on April 1st, so a whopping 7 days went by from my initial email that they made a decision on April 1st. Based on this review, we feel it is time to add the pavement markings to divide each side of the median to 2 lanes. This will remove any confusion drivers may have when encountered by the one wide lane. Now, as with this type of lane configuration, we will be posting no parking signs along Oconomowoc Parkway between Silver Lake and Valley Road. That's probably a half a mile. We will be installing the no parking signs once they are received. The pavement marking will take place sometime this summer or early fall with the rest of the streets in the city. No sincerely, no respectfully, no cordially. Mark Fry, City of Oconomowoc, Director of Public Works. That was it. Now, with that change, the Chief of Police and Director of Public Works actions have decided the following. These are the ramifications of putting up no parking signs. Residents of Dover Court condominiums at the east end of Oconomowoc Parkway will no longer have parking available on the parkway for friends and relatives when visiting. Residents of Silver Ridge 55 or over condominiums just to the west will no longer have parking available for friends and relatives when visiting. They have a very small parking lot. Users of Lake Country Trail access points on the parkway will no longer have access to Mud Lake for winter and summer fishing. They will not be permitted to park on Oconomowoc Parkway. And those are the access points both north and south. Bicycle riders and walkers, joggers who use Lake Country Trail and park on Oconomowoc Parkway and then implement their bicycles or their running will no longer be able to do so. Parents of Silver Lake Intermediate School will no longer be permitted to park on Oconomowoc Parkway during late afternoon and early evening school functions. If you come in the evening when they have the holiday functions and other high demand functions, they park on Oconomowoc Parkway. That parking lot is not big. Kids who ride their bicycles to school when weather permits will have to contend with 4-lane road divided by white traffic markings and be forced to use the only sidewalk available in the area, which is on the southern side of the street. Anyone who lives on the north side subdivisions will have to cross that road. If the District 4 aldermen have any response to the points I've made, I'll be sitting right there. And I'll be here until the Common Council meeting is adjourned. This is what I wanted to share with other aldermen. Thank you.
Any other comments? Yes, state your name and address.
My name is Jane Owen. I'm representing the property at 520 Concord Road. My comments pertain to the proposed development at 578 Concord Road. Please note for the record that the originally submitted plans, as I would call it, back in October and November, did not include wetlands delineation from a DNR assured delineator, nor as of lunch today had the DNR received any potential paperwork to have that reviewed, processed, potentially approved, disapproved, changed, what have you. Per the name of Mr. Patrick Johnson, his business as Warhawks 24 LLC, his, shall I say, design firm of Patera, nor as Sherry Liefring working for Natural Landscapes, Inc., who, according to the prints provided by Mr. Gallo in the, I believe it's the planning office? Yes? None of those were listed with the DNR as of lunchtime today to have those wetland lines looked at. And so that would require somebody on his behalf, Mr. Johnson's behalf, to submit those online to the DNR, in which they have 60 days to come out, look at it, make their determination, and issue their decision. Just please note for the record that as far as I understand, the process was not followed correctly and was not checked for completion before it went through several steps in the month of May and all winter, all spring, and up until now. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other comments? Seeing none, we'll move on to regular business. First item is the consent agenda. On the consent agenda tonight, we have licenses. So we need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
So moved.
I'll second.
Moved and seconded. Any comments? Go ahead.
Yeah, whereas I see that we've got quite an extensive number of licenses that we're going to approve or disapprove, what concerns me is there are a lot. And the fact of the matter here is, if I recall, last year there were some concerns with some of these businesses and how they were operating with their licenses. I can think of a couple that I know of. And so I don't know if we should really just blanket this and just say, okay, you're all approved, go ahead. I think that there are some individuals that are in this list that really need to be taken out and talked to or not approved or something. So I'm a little concerned with just coming with a blanket statement like this and just saying, let's just go ahead and approve everyone.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Shaw,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis,
Nay.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Stray,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Okay, moving on to committee reports. Personnel Committee, the first item is consider acting on market study results and recommendations for city crew positions. We need a motion to approve this recommendation.
So moved.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Tony?
Good evening, Council. This past November, Personnel Committee approved a market study to ensure the city's crew positions are paid appropriately and competitively. The market study included all crew positions, including DPW, parks, wastewater, water, electric, fleet, and dispatch. So included in your council packets was a copy of the study and the supporting documents that went along with that. The study was conducted by Carlson Detman Consulting, who has been the city's compensation consultant for the past 10 years. They've helped put our system in place that we have today. Charlie Carlson is present today and here to answer any questions about the study, if you have any questions for him. In regards to the study, the good news is most city crew positions are paid appropriately and competitively. There's no adjustments needed for wastewater, water, fleet, dispatch, and some of the higher level crew parks and DPW positions. Only 3 recommendations were made. Personnel Committee approved the study's 3 recommendations for council's review and approval tonight. The 3 recommendations are, 1, a 10% wage adjustment is needed for the city's crew, DPW, parks, grade 1 positions. Based on the market study's results and a survey of local comparables conducted by the city's HR offices, grade 1 wages are low and not competitive. And I put examples in the memo there for you to see. The second recommendation is the study recommended that we create a higher grade level for our DPW class. Currently, there's just 1 grade with a bunch of skills, different varying skills in 1 grade. This would create a promotional opportunity which will assist in promoting and retaining our skilled workers in the Department of Public Works. In summary, the employees who are doing higher level work, who have the higher level skills, should be paid accordingly. Creating the grade 2 classification is similar to what we've done with other departments. Parks and electric, we've created higher levels too, and we've been successful with that. DPW has a need for 2 employees to fulfill this role. The cost is minimal. Total cost to promote 2 employees, total with WRS taxes and everything, is $3,381 effective January 1, 2020. And the third recommendation was a 5% wage increase to the electric crew pay schedule. Recruiting and attracting electric skilled employees is extremely difficult and challenging. We know, we've been there many times. In addition, our electric crew wages are significantly lower than our local competitors, sometimes as low as there's a difference of $10 or more compared to our big competitor here, it's We Energies, just based on Waukesha County and the area. So with that, those are the 3 recommendations, and I'll leave it up to you. And if you have any questions for Charlie Carlson, feel free.
Great, thanks, Tony. We'll open it up for discussion. Go ahead.
Guess I'm the only one right now. A couple things that I noticed in the study itself is some things that aren't considered when you talk about wage increase is also location of where a job is. That's hard to factor in. So someone may get paid more to be in Milwaukee than they would be here, but they also might have to live closer to Milwaukee. One of the questions I have, I guess, related to that is, are we having issues maintaining people in these positions? In other words, is this a solution looking for a problem?
Good question.
Now, let me talk, let me split that question up.
Go
Let me
ahead.
first talk about the DPW Parks wages, guys. Are we having problems recruiting, keeping those people? Are we losing people every day? I mean, what is the impetus of this?
On our department is relatively small. For our DPW, we've lost 2 or 3 employees in the last, say, 5 years. They're leaving to go to places that they're offering higher wages. One employee went to a local community here, got paid a lot more. We lost a highly skilled employee. The other employee we brought in, tried to train him, spent the money on training him, and guess what? Within 6 months, he was gone as well. And I can't remember if there's other people, we get retirements as well. We're also noticing that when we go to recruit and post a job ad out there, back when I first was hired here 10 years ago, we'd have 100, 200 applicants. Now we're seeing 30, 40. If you take out that they don't have CDLs, that they're not qualified for the jobs, they don't have the experience that we're looking for, you're down to a good 10, 12 people throughout the process. It's becoming more and more challenging as time goes on.
But I guess the question is, are we having trouble recruiting people because they're comparing what maybe Delafield or Heartland pays, and it's $1.15 more once you get to the max level, and that's the reason why? Or are people leaving for other reasons? I mean, it's a lot of money, and I'm curious how this is going to affect our budget. I'm assuming the electrical wage increase, it goes out of the electrical utility, so that's not really a levy issue. Lori is here. I'm assuming that's correct, right? So the $73,000 we're going to increase for that, the $70,373 for that comes out of electric utility, and we've just had a rate study, I think, done, so we should be okay there. But this is a $48,000 number. How many people are we raising up to that level?
Looking at a total of 9.
And are the DPW employees and the park employees doing the same functions? That they all need to get raised to that level?
They're all placed in grade 1, similar duties, similar, they've been rated in the same.
So I'm not opposed to creating this grade 2. I think that makes sense. It's a lower cost for levy issues, and it makes sense to promote people, and once they get to a higher skill level, to give them that next level up. I am not going to vote for the first option, which is the $48,000 increase right now, without a real definitive, we had 2 or 3 people leave over the last 5 years. To me, that's okay. So, maybe one community pays a little more than us. We're not talking about massive differences when I look at these numbers. When you look at the max number from the total market comparisons to us, you're talking about $1.60 so an hour, but there's certainly differences in those communities that are intangibles, not just pay. So I'm not necessarily for that, that amount. I'll leave that as my comments for that right now.
Just, can I add
yeah.
to that? When your wages start to become, if you just look at because I added in the memo, you'll see that the difference between our Waukesha County comparables are significant. It's not a dollar. You're looking at even if we just look locally here with the town of Oconomowoc, they're at $25 an hour for starting. We're down at 22. Waukesha County's doing the same thing, significant differences there. And when your wages start to become where people can leave, people don't leave unless there's a good reason to leave. And a lot of times it's, when your wages are not competitive and they can come over here, we can train them, we can spend the money on them. We have a couple of young people we just recently hired. We don't want to lose them, as soon as there's an opening in another community. I don't blame them for going. It's 10% more, 15% more, maybe up to 20% more. So, I'm just trying to keep our wages competitive in that area. Those are skilled positions, and I think we need to do our best to hold on to them.
Well, then in response to that, why do a 10% right away? Why don't we do a more graduated effect so that the effect on the tax levy is not as significant in one fell swoop? I mean, you're talking about a $48,000 increase. That's almost an entire person increase in 1 year for these 9 employees.
In our way, obviously, I would have loved to do this 2 years ago. Because we're starting to lose that competitive advantage. I'd love to get it through this year, if possible. I'd love to go back to 2019 and do it, but obviously, we're proposing it for next year's budget for 2020. The other thing, Alderman Rozak, to think about too and I can't give you this number for sure, but that 48,000 might look like a big number to you. We have 3 people in the retirement category who would qualify for retirement. I don't know when they're going to leave, but when those individuals leave, we have a savings there because we bring people in at a lower wage. And just estimating those 3 people, if they leave, good chance you're going to recover a good portion of that money that you just spent to increase wages.
Well, that's
Competitive.
true, but eventually they'll get older and more senior and get it to max levels too, right?
That's true, too.
Yeah,
It balances.
Yeah, it eventually balances out. I just think it's a lot of money right now, and I wish we could, we give COLA increases as well, and this is a big jump. And I'm not seeing, at least I'm not hearing right now, a viable reason, if you're telling me we're losing people every other month out of a 10-person crew because they're moving to Delafield because it's $1 more an hour, maybe I'm more concerned, but to me, in my head, I don't see a massive concern right now. So,
Any other comments? Oh, go ahead.
If I, excuse me, if I could speak to that. We did, this impetus of the study was 2 things, and they were described in the memo. Part of it is you want to review your wages every so often to make sure that they remain competitive. But when we did lose an individual, we did have aldermen coming to us and saying, we need to fix our wage scale. And so we did contact Carlson Detman Consulting at that time, and I think that was 2018, am I correct, Tony?
Yeah.
And at that time, Carlson had looked at that and said, you probably need to adjust your wage scale 10%. At that point in time, it was, we don't want to be overreactionary to an individual leaving either. So we wanted to look at it in context of the scale overall. And so we budgeted to do the wage increase. The Personnel Committee had asked us, or wage study, the Personnel Committee had asked us to look at that. So that's part of the reason why it's coming forward, as well as there was some aldermanic request for that. And in addition, there was also, it was time, because we should look at these things to make sure that we stay competitive every 3 to 5 years, is what Charlie talked about at the Personnel Committee this last week.
Go ahead, Tom.
Seeing I was the only one at that committee meeting until I dragged a couple people out of the hallway to finish up, we looked at it really close. We had good discussions on every aspect of what the increases are and why we lose people. Tony just said it happens, and we're only talking, if we lose 1 person out of 9 people, that's 15% of our workforce. And I think we decided that we need to get in the ballpark and jump up and keep these young men and women. So that's what I thought. As far as the levy's concerned, we can always cut other things out of the levy, like some of the stuff we just talked to in our private meeting. So.
Go ahead, Kevin.
I had a conversation with an individual who had left the city
for another position in another town. And the only reason he did that was because of wages. The individual that left, for you to try and find somebody at his level is going to cost a whole lot more than $48,000. I can assure you of that. It is time. I think it is time to become more competitive, or at least be as competitive as our neighbors, because, yeah, you know what? $1, $2 makes a big difference to a lot of people. Absolutely. So I'm in favor of it.
Charlie?
Man, I agree with you that this 48,000 is a lot of money. I understand that. But we put this off once before when it was kind of recommended that we should go ahead and be increasing these salaries for these guys. And I think now is the time to do that. We do need to stay competitive with our neighbors, and so I will support this also.
Good.
Now, I'm not trying to argue with you, but I'm curious, when did we talk about this? But I don't remember talking about it, but was it in the personnel committee at some point?
Yeah.
It was
It was-
discussed a couple of years ago?
In this memo was recommended in 2018, and we didn't act on it at all.
I see,
That's all.
okay, that was the first time we've kind of
right.
started. I guess then I have a, if I may, Mayor,
Good.
one other related question, Tony. Why do we need to hire a separate consulting group to come in and do this? Can't we just do kind of informal, hey, what are your parks and DPW guys doing in Delafield? What do you know, pick up the phone and talk to HR? Or just look at postings in these other communities to see and try to match that up, you know, every couple of years, so we don't have to pay someone 10 grand to look at it and then, you know, kind of argue about it here, instead of just kind of trying to be more proactive. So if they have been underpaid for this long, what are we doing to make sure that they're not underpaid moving forward? So let's say we vote for this tonight, which my guess is it probably passes, okay? I don't want to be back here 5 years and say, okay, now we're low again, and now we need another 10% increase instead of small incremental increases to keep us competitive. I mean, what do we do to fix that moving forward?
I mean, the system that we have now works very well. We don't spend a lot of money with Carlson Detman at all, because the HR office is involved, we help support, we give them data, the local data. So for this study, it was $4,500. We didn't spend that much to do it. I'm not a compensation consultant, nor is anyone at the city. They have data, they have resources that they can have access to that I can't get my hands on. It also creates that level of independence. I have to work with these people on a daily basis, and for me to be in charge of their pay, I can make the suggestion and obviously bring it forward. You know, some people accuse me, they do that now anyways, but of being biased or not biased, or they don't like the way Carlson has recommended this, but I have somebody with years of experience that I have access to at a very low cost. We don't use them all the time. It's just, you know, once when there's a market study, it's typically every 5 year or as needed.
And I appreciate that, and I understand the need for the independence, but in this case, the study cost 10% of the wage increase we're anticipating giving for the next year. So, you know, we could find out, I think, very easily what town of Oconomowoc, Waukesha County is paying their low-grade, mid-grade, high-grade folks, and just kind of give us, hey, let's do a 3% increase this year, let's do a 2% increase this year, so we don't have to do these large, because it's a big chunk. You know, 48 grand on the next levy is big. And, you know, we're always scraping for 100 grand, 150, 200 grand, and this is a big chunk, so.
My only, you know, and I know I probably won't convince you, but it's an $8 million payroll. And it's great to know that we're getting it right every time. I mean, just to have that reassurance is nice. That would be my only counter to that.
If we
argument.
agree with Carl Dentman, but I don't know that they're getting it right either. We're
Yeah.
just saying they're saying they're getting it right.
Got a good resume, but yeah.
Quite frankly, if Tony came and said, this is what I would recommend we do, we'd probably be asking, well, why don't you do a study on that?
I don't,
Because we've done that kind of stuff in the past as well.
I don't
So
agree with that.
We can't sit here and argue, don't do the study, or please do a study. We have to be somewhat consistent.
Well, for my purposes, Charlie, I'm very consistent. I hate spending money on studies, and I'm very critical and cynical on the studies, because we spend tens of thousands of dollars a year on studies when we should just try to garner the information ourselves, so.
Any other comments? Karen?
But there's also a cost involved in taking our city employees away from what they're doing to do the study on their own. There's a cost involved with that as well.
Correct. I mean, you only have one HR person, and yeah, I mean, if I was going to do it correctly, you need a lot of time to do it and to do it correctly.
And then again, you lack the independence.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Nay.
Next item is consider act on on harassment, sexual harassment policy revision. We need a motion to approve this revision.
So move on that one.
Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Go ahead, Tony.
This one's relatively easy. Obviously, the city of Oconomowoc has a zero tolerance for harassment and sexual harassment in the workplace. There's been a lot of changes in the news, a lot of updates in the news on sexual harassment, and sometimes you wonder why this still occurs. We looked at our policy. It was a good opportunity to look at our policy and try to see if there's any open-ended statements that we could fix, and we're making 3 recommendations to the policy. So number 1, I added language to encourage employees to speak up. But not requiring the employees to do that. So if they're encouraged to speak up, good chance they might be able to clear up any kind of misunderstanding. At least the employees know that, hey, that's offensive, that kind of statement is offensive. Good chances the harassment will stop. The second thing that I'm recommending that we do is that we widen the scope of reporting options for employees. Currently, it's just if there's an issue, they would go to their department head or human resources. I want to widen that scope to be more effective, just make people more comfortable. They may be more comfortable going to Sarah versus me or to their department head. If there's an issue with elected official, I want to also have the opportunity that they can go to the mayor as well and talk to the mayor about the issues. So that's just widen the scope. And the third one is to be more proactive on reporting of harassment. Currently, our policy doesn't say that it needs to be reported to HR or the city administrator promptly. By doing so and requiring it up front, we'll be able to be proactive and solve it quickly.
Thank you, Tony. Questions? Go ahead, Charlie.
Yeah, when you talk about widening the scope of options, I just don't understand the part about where you have the mayor or city administrator, if such conduct is engaged by an elected official or appointed official, why have that qualifier in there? Why not just make them one of the people that would be able to take that harassment claim? And then the other comment I have is, do these people that take the claims have some sort of training what to do once they get the harassment claim? Because there's a lot of confidentiality that needs to be involved with things like this. And so, for instance, if it's going to be the mayor and somebody were to come to the mayor, does he need to get some sort of training as to what he does once that claim is made?
Correct. That's actually the reason for my push behind this is we're going to do an initiative on doing some sexual harassment training coming up, so I need this approved. It's been a week. We do it at orientation, but going forward, I want to start doing it every 2 years, so that all supervisors are trained, employees are aware, and we can bring in the mayor as well on that too. Did that answer your question? I think I got one of 2.
It does, as far as part of the question, but the other one is why have the mayor just in case the conduct is by an elected official? I mean, somebody should be able to go to the mayor no matter who the employee is or whatever the conduct is. He should just be one of the people that they're able to go and talk to.
Correct. My thinking to that is that city administrator's role is she's responsible for personnel. I would hope that they go to the city administrator first. They do have the option. They have still the option to go to their department head, HR. So they do have 3. Mayor's part-time. He's not always here as well. That's the other thought behind that. And it's also just kind of to direct people if it's a political, if it's an elected official, the mayor's there for you.
Right. Well, and sorry, sir, I'll kind of pick on you here. It's always possible that the city administrator is the one that's doing the sexual harassment, and so you do want to be able to have someone else to go to. So, like I say, I would prefer not to have that line in there about if such conduct is done by an elected official, and just have the mayor and the city administrator be added as to widen that scope.
I agree with you too, because it could be somebody that doesn't want to talk to somebody on the administrative staff.
Correct.
Yeah, I'll echo that. I think we should just,
I agree.
we should make D just mayor and have him, I mean, the mayor is the ultimate elected head of state. He's not running the day-to-day operations, but he's the ultimate elected head of state. And if there's an internal issue with all the departments, you know, there's something that everyone's allowed to happen presumably for years, you need to go to that guy who's ultimately gonna get voted out in 2 years if he let this stuff happen. Or
Sure.
gal, right?
Yeah.
Not saying that that's ever gonna occur. So I would echo Charlie and the mayor and just suggest as an amendment to this policy that we cross out everything after or and just simply leave D as the mayor.
Mayor.
Yeah, so I'll make that motion to amend the policy based on that.
I'll second that motion.
And then one other comment I had, also off of Charlie, because him and I are thinking the same things tonight a little bit, although he's wrong on the last vote.
We have to deal with the motion now.
Oh,
Because
sorry.
you made you
oh.
made an amendment, so we have to.
Oh,
to
yeah, oh,
deal
I'm
with
sorry.
that.
Yep, I'm sorry. Apologies. Yep.
Okay. Now, Sarah, did you have a
Yeah.
comment on that?
Yeah, I just wanted to, I think that change is a good change, and actually, the intention of what the changes that you're proposing, I think, I thought was in the language, I'm an appointed official, so that's where, in my mind, the mayor is a resource for any appointed official. So if you make that change, I think you're meeting the intention of what we were trying to put forward, and that might make it clear with the amendment, with striking that language after, that's fine.
So now we have a amendment to the original, it's not a motion even, it's just more of a revision to a policy. We have an amendment. Any other comments? Take a roll call on the amendment.
Alderman Shaw,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis,
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg,
Aye.
Alderman Stray,
Aye.
Alderman Rogers,
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Okay, now we'll go back to the original policy revision. Matt, you had another comment on that?
Yeah, I won't, I'll be very brief. Just the reporting, if any of these people are reported to, is there some type of form that they need to fill out? You know, do we have a reporting form or some type of reporting format?
In the employee handbook, there are steps and a procedure that they have to follow.
Okay, is there, I mean, we talk about earlier on in the new change that there needs to be stuff in verbal or in writing. Should we create, or have you guys thought about creating some type of actual form to fill out, date, name, narrative, something, or is that not a recommendation in the human resource, community?
I typically try to get it in writing because obviously we don't want the story to change, you
Yeah.
know, and that we do it. We don't get many of these, but
Right.
when it does happen, we try to get it in
I would
writing.
just recommend from my own personal, not experience with sexual harassment, but as in the legal world, that we create some very basic, simple form that any of these reporting, that people that can be reported to could simply fill out.
Form.
So that we have, if an incident keeps occurring, you can document that personnel file and say, oh, here, and all 3 incidences are identical, or happen on the same day of the week or the same time or whatever. I just think that'd be valuable. I'm not saying
Okay.
add it to this, just a comment generally.
Okay, thank you.
Any other comments? Go ahead.
You said that there was some training that would be coming up. Would that potentially address the format of the form that Matt was talking about? Would they have some type of recommendation for that?
We don't have a standard template form, but we can create one. I think it's a good idea. I would add it to that training that we put in there, so it's easy to do. I mean, some employees may want to fill it out, some employees may not, they may just want to come and talk. A lot of times they're just making a complaint. A lot of times people don't want you to do anything, but, we need people to report it.
I'm just saying, is the training done by an independent outside source? And would they have a recommendation for formatting that?
No, we do not use an outside source for that. Actually, we have aids that I use, videos and things like that we're going to be using in the future.
Any other comments? We have a amended policy revision. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Shaw,
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Next item is consider an act on a years of service and retirement recognition program. We need a motion to approve this recognition program.
So moved.
Second.
Go ahead, Tony.
Okay. Past Tuesday, Personnel Committee recommended the implementation of a years of service and retirement recognition program. Just a few things on it. Length of service recognition is a top recognition program offered by employers. Currently, the city does not have a program in place for years of service and retirement recognition. We do well with performance recognition, but we're weak in terms of years of service recognition. The program that we're proposing will formalize the process and provide years of service awards starting at 5 years with local gift certificates from Oconomowoc local businesses and/or the Chamber of Commerce ranging from $50 to $200 for 25 years of service or more. It's kind of dual purpose. It promotes the employees, rewards the employees, also supports the local businesses. The retirement gift is up to $150 in value. The program would take effect January 1, 2020. Approximate cost $4,000 per year, but it's going to be based on the number of eligible employees for an award and number of retirements that we get. We're close to that. I looked at the last 2 years, and that's about what we would spend.
Okay. Questions? Go ahead, Matt.
Tony, you're on the button today with me. Sorry. I'm going to vote against this as well. Not to appear to be a curmudgeon, but it sounds like we've been kind of doing some of this stuff already. I don't really mind the retirement recognition, you know, but the 50s, 100s, and 200s worth of gift cards being given out for people that have been employed, I think seems excessive. I'll note that I was elected in April of 2014, and I haven't received my $25 gift card. But I think it's $4,000 a year that we're potentially spending on this, and I don't, you know, we're giving raises, we're doing COLA increases, we're doing those things. I think that's an appropriate enough recognition. And I'm sure I'm going to be outvoted, and I'm sure I'll be panned somewhere for this on some local social media, but I think it's something we don't need to do. And I really don't think elected officials need to be included in it at all. But that's just we're already paid for our job.
Go ahead, Charlie.
Matt, I agree with you with that part. I was going to recommend the same thing, that we eliminate the elected officials. We run for office. That's the recognition we get. This recognition program should be for employees, and I will support it for the employees.
Go ahead.
I also agree with you there. I believe that we've been voted in to serve, and that the employees should be the ones that should be recognized for the years of service.
We need to, if we want to amend the program.
I want to make a motion to amend it and take out, I guess it would be the, for elected officials, for that to come out.
Have a second?
I'll second that.
It doesn't say, it just says employees, but we can clarify
It
the
doesn't-
policy.
I'm
So
thinking
we'll
it never
add
did
language.
state elected officials.
Under it, where it says relates to the strategic plan, the third line has elected officials and employees.
Right there.
Okay.
Oh, in the memo?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah.
That's
okay.
from the strategic plan, but I didn't write it in this
I
plan. But you're
understand.
right, I see where you're getting it from.
Yeah, because I'm
Yeah.
looking at the actual plan, and it's like, I can't see it
Yep, I see it.
Still want to see
in
it
the plan.
in the plan.
So,
Okay.
Thank you.
so we have a motion and a second to remove elected officials. Call the roll, please.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Okay, so this is for just employees now. Any other questions? Seeing none, call the roll, please, on the amended motion.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Nay.
Okay, moving on to protection and welfare. First item is consider act on resolution granting renewal of 2019 to 2020 alcohol beverage licenses. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution.
Second.
Diane?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. This resolution before you lists all the current alcohol license establishments here in the city of Oconomowoc, and the resolution indicates that all licensees have applied for renewal of their alcohol beverage license, and that is A's, B's, and C's. And all applicants meet all Chapter 12 licensing requirements as well as all state statutes. So therefore, I am recommending approval of the alcohol licenses.
I'd like to make a motion to pull out Magna LLC out of the Reserve Class B intoxicating liquor fermented malt licenses and vote on that separately out of this package of licenses.
No, I didn't know about this.
Well, he's just wanting to vote on it separately.
Okay.
Yes, I think it even says in our booklet here, we can move on these separately.
Okay,
Right.
we're gonna vote on it separately, but.
I need a second if,
Stan, okay, you have a
What I'm
motion.
bringing up is if you are going, if it's a renewal and you haven't given them notice of the possibility that you may not be renewing, we have to go through that process. Okay?
Yeah, I understand.
We all know that. Okay,
Okay.
good.
So there's a motion, now we need a second
right,
to pull them out.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to pull Magna, so we need to vote on the amendment. Go ahead and call the roll.
oh, did Charlie had his hand up?
Go ahead, Charlie.
Just on this part of the amendment, I understand why you're doing this. I don't think we need to do it at this time. I'm not going to support pulling them out. But I have to admit, I have stopped up there at least 10 times since last year when we went through this, and I've never found them open.
And just so it's,
Hang on.
yeah,
Are you done, Charlie?
Yes.
Okay.
I don't think I agree with the city attorney. I was not planning on voting to non-renew them, but we pull it out separately so we
You
can
just want to have
discuss
it as a separate.
Yes,
separate
that's the purpose of it.
thing. Okay.
Okay.
Okay, we have a amended motion. This would pull out, well, let's see. How does this work
So
now?
why don't you make the motion to approve everyone but that one? That'll make it a lot easier. Then we
Okay.
don't have to take two votes on the same thing.
Well, we're still going to have to take another vote on it.
Well, they'll talk about the other one. But then you're gonna have a vote on whether you pull them out or not, then you're gonna have a vote on whether you approve everyone else other than them.
And then have another vote on it.
Have another vote on them.
Okay.
Or we get paid the big bucks.
I'll amend it as.
Amended as what-
As stated, but I don't think it
Stated.
really, it's kind of a horse. of
So
peace.
this will be, this is a motion to approve everybody except Magna LLC.
Right.
Okay,
That's fine.
call the roll.
Are you, Tom, are you
That's
seconding
what
that?
you're,
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Second, yeah. Third,
All right, just want to make sure.
fourth,
Okay.
fifth, I'll drink a fifth.
Thank you, Tom.
so call the roll.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Okay, so now we need to have a resolution granting renewal. Should I do it that way?
They have a discussion as to.
Okay,
Yes.
let's open it up for discussion first.
And now we're on the Magna LLC.
Now we're on the
one.
Magna
Yeah.
LLC, only Magna everybody else is approved.
Yeah, the only reason I wanted to pull this out separately is not to non-renew them, because I don't think we've gone through the steps, but I don't believe that they're complying with their ordinance on operation. They pulled the wool over our eyes several years on this operation. They're using this as a tool to promote their business and not actually using the license. Luckily, right now, we have enough licenses available, but what I would encourage, and I think I mentioned it last year, I would encourage our city inspector or someone to go out on a regular basis to see if they're actually holding regular, hours of operation. I've gone by there, other folks have gone by there that have commented to me that they're not. They opened up the one day, they bought a bunch of liquor when they were gonna lose their license 2 years ago, and then they just never reopened. So I think we need to do our due diligence to find out if they're actually truly in operation, truly serving, so that we can non-renew them next year if they're not complying with the ordinance and statutes.
Or you can, take the license on the basis of a special hearing if they have not operated for the requisite period of time.
Right, and I think that's been reduced now to, I think, 90 days.
90 days, I believe you did. Yes.
I agree with that. Thank you, Stan.
Thank you.
Go ahead, Tom.
I think that should include like the county health department and a few of the other, the fire department to make sure they're up to code, because, they probably have never done anything to clean the place up. This is their
Charlie,
department.
did you have something you wanted? No? Okay.
So I'm going to vote to renew them because we haven't started the proper process yet, but I wanted to pull them out separately to
fine.
discuss. So I'm going to
That's
move
fine.
to approve them at this time with the caveat that we move forward and start investigating whether they're complying.
I think that the true intention is that they won't be there next year.
Yeah,
That may
that's-
be, That may be.
That's
Yeah.
the,
We haven't been there for 20 years, so
Well,
what's the difference?
okay.
All right.
so we have a motion, and a second on the floor to
Approve.
approve.
Yep.
Call the roll, please.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Nay.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Nay.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Next item, consider acting on a resolution granting a new 2019 to 2020 Class A intoxicating liquor fermented malt beverage license to Harris Service Incorporated. Need a motion to approve the resolution?
I'll make a motion to approve the resolution for the new 2019, 2020 Class A license for hair service.
Second? Do you need a second?
Second.
Motion and a second.
All right. Harris Mobile has been operating for approximately 5 years with a beer license, fermented malt beverage. They have requested now to operate with a full Class A beer and liquor license. They meet all Chapter 12 licensing requirements and state statutes, and we do not have quotas on Class A licenses. Those licenses are to purchase alcoholic beverages and consume them away from the premises.
Okay, any comments? Seeing none, we have a motion, and a second on the floor. Call the roll.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Okay, under utility, consider acting on a resolution for the Wisconsin DNR Compliance Maintenance Annual Report, the CMAR report for 2018 wastewater operations. Need a motion to approve the resolution?
So moved.
Second.
Kevin?
Mayor, Council, thank you. I want to spend a couple seconds just talking about what the Compliance Maintenance Annual Report actually is. So it's an evaluation of the wastewater treatment plant's requirements. It also is an evaluation that is for any wastewater treatment plant that's publicly owned. The purpose of the evaluation is to evaluate the wastewater treatment systems for problems and deficiencies. The CMAR also encourages actions that promotes the Common Council's awareness of responsibilities for the wastewater collection system and the treatment plant. It lets you know about the maximum useful life of the wastewater treatment plant system through improved operations and maintenance. It initiates formal planning and design, constructions for system upgrades. The ECMR is a form of communication tool that identifies the needs for planning. It describes the management and physical conditions of the wastewater treatment works during the previous year. It assesses the system performance and wastewater maintenance activities. It provides an objective analysis to determine whether a more detailed evaluation of the wastewater facility is needed, and it identifies proposed actions necessary to maintain the regulatory compliance. That's really what it's for. It's the report card for the wastewater treatment plant so that you guys know exactly what's happening. There's 9 categories in it. As you know, influent is what the flow's coming in. We also have categories of our effluent as far as BOD, TSS, phosphorus. It looks at our biosolids quality and management, our staffing and preventive maintenance. It takes and looks at operator certification and education. You're required to have a certified operator to run your treatment facility. That's me. The financial management of the wastewater treatment plant, and then it also reviews the sanitary collection system. This year's score again was a perfect 4. It shows that we do a good job at the wastewater treatment plant and that the staff is following DNR regulations.
Questions? Go ahead, Charlie.
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. Kevin, I want to thank you and thank the staff for the professionalism you guys do out there. We take it for granted that the wastewater treatment plant is running smoothly, and you guys do a great job. Thanks.
Thank you.
Agreed. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'll echo what Charlie said. I've only had a few report cards in college that were straight A's like that, so it's nice. A few
You had
here
some?
and there. I had a few in there. The one question I had was, it's not necessarily part of this, but the watershed project, is that really reflected in here with our phosphorus reduction stuff?
It does show up in there. It's not actually shows up in that score part, but the adaptive management part will be part of our next permit. Like I've told the utility committee, that should come out in October, end of this year.
Then it will be part of this officially. Prior to this, we're just working on it to get it approved into the permit. So once it gets in our permit, we'll see, it'll be reflected in here.
Okay, thanks.
Any other comments? Seeing none, we have a motion and a second on the floor. Call the roll.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Okay, now we're getting down to the heavy lifting. Consider acting on alternative placement locations for the two Oz characters. We need a motion to approve the resolution. We need a motion to approve the resolution.
There is
So
no
moved.
resolution. Oh,
Well,
Mayor, it's just.
a motion to approve the placement.
That's right.
Thank you. Agenda wording.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. See, tough audience.
Could be a tough audience. On April 16th, you authorized the purchase of the characters as it relates to the 80th anniversary of the Wizard of Oz, but you asked me to come back for alternative locations. So I provided that to you in the memo, in consultation with the former Park and Rec Director and Forestry Director, placement of the witch at the north end of the plaza by removal of some asphalt. The reason we would put it there is obviously to make sure we're not impacting the roots to the tree that's behind it. And the other one, as depicted in the memo, that we felt would be appropriate to welcome people to City Hall, is adjacent to the monument right by the stairway. The other thing you guys asked me to share with you is the colors of bricks. Some things that changed after we proposed this is a company came forward as it related to, instead of concrete, to donate brick.
We
for this
donate.
project.
yellow
So we're in the
brick.
process of trying to work with our concrete contractor to put concrete in and put these on brick so it's not uneven when people are using it.
This is the little spiral in front? Yeah.
See a picture of that too?
Heck, yeah, we do.
This is fun.
Ooh.
That looks cool.
It does.
Well, good.
So it is a concrete stain. There will be some maintenance to it, but tourism will take care of that they've indicated every 3 to 5 years it may have to be restained, so. You have a question, Attorney Riffle?
No, scratching.
Any comments on the locations of the wizard and the witch? I thought the wizard in the front was a pretty good idea, and the witch kind of in the trees there, because that's part of the.
That's perfect, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's perfect.
I-
They're near, but they're not all combined together.
Yeah, they're okay. I just like to see something down in the lot there, you know, like a plaque or something where the old theater used to be.
There's a plaque someplace if you walk down the street, it's one of the buildings down there, it says this is where the theater was. Not
That I
in the
don't know.
parking lot. Is that the right spot?
Yeah, it's where
The parking lot of Chase 1 is actually the spot. The
Yeah.
plaque you're thinking of is,
For the
believe
Strand.
there's a plaque at the entrance of Hero Chapman Hero
Yes.
as it relates to the Hero soda fountain store that used to be
I
there.
thought it was something about a theater.
I'd have to look.
I'd have to look.
I don't pass it every day.
I just thought it'd be nice if people could sit there and,
So this looks like it's a good spot? Okay, do we need a vote on it?
Yes.
Okay, call the roll, please.
Alderman Shaw.
Aye.
Alderman Ellis.
Aye.
Alderman Spiegelberg.
Aye.
Alderman Stray.
Aye.
Alderman Rogers.
Aye.
Alderman Rozak.
Aye.
Okay, staff reports,
Nothing this evening.
reports and comments from Alderman? Go ahead, Charlie.
Mr. Holmes, please give me a call. I'll be happy to meet with you out on Oconomowoc Parkway, and we can walk it and talk all the concerns we want. I'm not going to get into an email debate, doing it via email, but I'll be glad to meet with you. We can talk anything.
Any other comments from Alderman?
yeah, I just
Go
got
ahead.
one about, a few complaints that came in about Friday night down at the City Beach. The bathrooms were almost non-existent, and we got a $8 million community center that they promised that outside bathrooms would be open for everything, and like the concerts on Wednesday night, and when our attorney goes down there, because he's going to be rocking that place, and And then there were kids, up on that stage where that stage where the flower pots are, they're jumping off of that and jumping, going back up and jumping off. That's a liability for the city if somebody gets hurt. And I mentioned before there, all the dogs that were in the park. So, now that John left, I guess they can do anything.
Any other comments? Oh, go ahead.
Hats off to the Chamber of Commerce for doing a great job on the Yellow Brick Road 5K on Saturday. Talking about going down the Yellow Brick Road, my oldest daughter and I ran it. And it was just a great event, great weekend in Oconomowoc again.
Any other comments? I have nothing tonight, so we need a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.